have a chance to kill someone, don't hesitate.
They called it just another action flick, until it rewrote the rules of Hollywood. Die Hard wasn't just explosive on screen, it was explosive behind the scenes. Studio doubts, casting chaos. A reluctant star who nearly turned down the role that would define his career forever. What audiences witnessed was pure adrenaline, but the story behind it is even wilder.
Remember, we have left nothing to chance.
From shocking near failures to on-set injuries and controversies that almost derailed production, Die Hard became the unlikeliest Christmas classic of all time. How close did Bruce Willis come to walking away? What dangerous stunts nearly ended in disaster? And what secrets are still buried beneath its legendary legacy?
Plaza, everything here's okay. Over. But nobody has no place to...
Get ready to uncover 20 shocking truths about Die Hard that Hollywood never wanted you to know. Shocking Secret 1. Bruce Willis was the studio's last choice today. It's impossible to imagine Die Hard without Bruce Willis. But back in 1987, Willis was far from an action star. He was best known for his charming, light-hearted role on Moonlighting, not for shootouts, explosions, or fistfights. The studio wanted a rugged, proven leading man, someone who could carry an action blockbuster with sheer presence. They approached the biggest names in Hollywood at the time, but every A-lister turned them down. Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Burt Reynolds, even Richard Gere all said no. Nobody wanted the role. Out of desperation, the studio offered it to Willis, who shocked everyone by accepting. Initially, audiences weren't sure what to make of him. Posters even hid his face, unsure if this comedic actor could carry such a high-stakes film. But when Die Hard hit theaters, Willis completely transformed the idea of an action hero. He wasn't a muscle-bound Superman. He was vulnerable, human, and relatable. A man who bled, struggled, and even broke down, yet still fought back with courage, wit, and grit.
Mr. Mystery Guest. Are you still there?
That combination made him unforgettable and forever changed the genre. In the end, Bruce Willis didn't just play John McClane, he became the blueprint for a new kind of hero, one born not of strength, but of struggle. Shocking Secret 2. The role that could have gone to Frank Sinatra. Here's a twist that feels almost like a fever dream. Die Hard was technically a sequel. The film was adapted from Roderick Thorpe's novel Nothing Lasts Forever, which itself was a follow-up to his earlier book, The Detective. That earlier story had already been adapted into a 1968 film starring none other than Frank Sinatra. When Die Hard went into production nearly 2 decades later, Hollywood actually offered Sinatra, then in his 70s, the role of John McClane. The legendary crooner politely declined, but for a brief, bizarre moment, the idea of an elderly Sinatra crawling through air vents, dodging explosions, and battling heavily armed terrorists was a real possibility. It's almost impossible to imagine today, yet for a fleeting instant, the action movie landscape could have looked utterly different. The notion of a geriatric Sinatra in a high-octane action thriller now belongs to the realm of cinematic what-ifs, a surreal footnote in Hollywood history. It's a reminder that some of the most iconic films we know could have been completely unrecognizable if the stars and the fates had aligned differently.
Get the fuck down!
They made us, Bureau. You got a terrorist shooting hospital.
Bank left!
Ultimately, Die Hard didn't just redefine action films, it proved that timing and choice could shape cinematic history. And somewhere in a parallel Hollywood, Sinatra's John McClane might still be crawling through those vents. Shocking Secret 3. Alan Rickman nearly quit on day 1. Alan Rickman's Hans Gruber is widely regarded as one of the greatest villains in cinema history. Cold, calculating, and terrifyingly charismatic. But the character we know and love almost never existed. Die Hard was Rickman's very first film role, and on his very first day on set, he suffered a knee injury performing a stunt. Doctors warned him that the injury might force him to quit the production altogether. Rickman, known for his unwavering professionalism, refused to step away. He pushed through, completing scenes in agonizing pain, all while carefully masking his limp behind Hans Gruber's calm, composed, and menacing demeanor. Remarkably, the injury didn't just fail to hold him back, it became an unexpected asset. The slight, deliberate slowness in his movements added a new layer to the character, making Gruber appear even more calculated and chilling. That subtle, physical nuance, born out of necessity, contributed to a performance that has haunted audiences for decades, proving that sometimes adversity can forge cinematic legends, and that Rickman's first role would set a standard for villainy that remains unmatched.
Yippi Key, motherfucker.
Hans Gruber wasn't just a villain, he was pain perfected. Rickman turned injury into iconic menace. Shocking Secret 4. The terrifying fall was 100% real. The shot of Hans Gruber plunging to his death in Die Hard is instantly iconic, etched into cinematic history. But what makes it truly unforgettable is that it wasn't entirely movie magic. The look of sheer terror on Alan Rickman's face, completely genuine. On the day of the stunt, the crew told him they would release him on the count of 3, giving him time to prepare mentally. But in a classic bit of behind-the-scenes mischief, they let go on 1 instead. Rickman plummeted 40 feet onto a massive airbag, completely shocked and unprepared for the drop. The camera captured every fraction of a second in slow motion, immortalizing his real fear as Hans Gruber's final moment. That unscripted panic added an intensity and authenticity that no special effect could replicate. It transformed what could have been a standard action shot into one of the most memorable villain deaths in film history. A perfect collision of daring stunt work, clever filmmaking, and one actor's raw, genuine reaction. In the end, a little trick, a lot of courage, and pure authenticity created a cinematic moment that fans still remember decades later. Gruber's fall wasn't just a stunt, it was terror captured in real time. Rickman's fear made the moment legendary. Shocking Secret 5. Hans Gruber's accent was almost too good. Hans Gruber pretending to be an American hostage in one of Die Hard's tensest scenes is unforgettable, but it almost didn't work the way we know it. Alan Rickman's American accent was so polished and convincing that the studio briefly entertained an astonishing idea. What if Gruber posed as an American throughout the entire film? Picture it, no German identity, no European menace, just another sharply dressed, double-crossing executive. The chilling elegance and cultural edge that made Gruber so memorable might have been lost. Thankfully, director John McTiernan quickly shut down the idea, insisting that Rickman's European identity remain intact. That decision proved crucial. Rickman's clipped, aristocratic accent became an essential part of his performance, a subtle yet powerful weapon that heightened every line of dialogue. One moment, he was charming, disarming, almost polite. The next, he was ruthless and terrifying. The contrast between his accent, demeanor, and actions amplified the tension, making Gruber one of cinema's most sophisticated and memorable villains. In the end, keeping Rickman's European elegance intact allowed the character to strike with precision, wit, and an unforgettable menace that still lingers decades later.
Oh, yes. What was it you said to me before? Yippi Key.
Gruber wasn't just a villain. He was a master of identity. Rickman's accent became his deadliest weapon. Shocking Secret 6. The script was based on a forgotten novel. Before it became an action classic, Die Hard existed only as words on a page. A 1979 thriller novel called Nothing Lasts Forever by Roderick Thorpe. The book was darker, far bloodier, and far more cynical than the film audiences would later know. The protagonist wasn't even John McClane. He was an aging ex-detective named Joe Leland, worn down by life and haunted by past failures. Instead of racing to save his wife from terrorists, Leland's mission was to protect his daughter, raising the stakes in a far more personal and far more tragic way. And the ending? Completely devastating. Leland fails. His daughter plunges to her death alongside the villain, leaving no room for triumph, no relief for readers, just bleak, heart-wrenching finality. When Hollywood adapted the novel, the filmmakers softened those edges, injected hope, and reimagined the story as the blockbuster we know today. Yet beneath the explosions, wisecracks, and heroics, the film carries the DNA of a far darker, more tragic tale, one that still lingers invisibly in every tense standoff and desperate fight McClane faces. It's a reminder that Die Hard's origins were far grimmer than its on-screen legacy suggests. Before Die Hard became legend, it was tragedy on the page. The film gave hope to a story that refused to forgive. Shocking Secret 7. Nakatomi Plaza was a real office building. That towering fortress of glass and steel in Die Hard wasn't a movie set. It was Fox Plaza, the real-life headquarters of 20th Century Fox in Los Angeles. The studio literally turned its own office building into the villain's lair, transforming everyday corporate corridors into a playground for explosions, gunfights, and shattered glass. At the time of filming, construction was still ongoing, which made the location both cinematic and chaotic, perfect for the high-octane action sequences that defined the film. Employees working in the building often had to remain at their desks while pyrotechnics detonated above them, with fake gunfire echoing through the hallways. Some braved the noise and peeked out their windows, catching glimpses of Bruce Willis sprinting across rooftops or dangling from precarious ledges, stunt doubles and all. Few office buildings in cinematic history achieved such fame, but Fox Plaza became an icon, forever linked to one of the most celebrated action films of all time. It's a rare instance where Hollywood literally used its own corporate headquarters to create a legendary backdrop, cementing a skyscraper not just in the skyline of Los Angeles, but in the annals of movie history. Fox Plaza wasn't just a building, it was a co-star. The real offices became the stage for cinematic chaos. Shocking Secret 8. Explosions, shattered windows. Across LA, Die Hard wasn't shy about its firepower. The production used real explosives, so powerful that they didn't just shake the set, they reverberated across entire city blocks. When charges were detonated inside Fox Plaza, the shockwaves shattered windows in surrounding neighborhoods, sending startled residents running for cover. Confused locals called the police, convinced that a genuine terrorist attack was underway. Fire marshals were on the verge of shutting down the shoot entirely, concerned about the unprecedented scale of the explosions. Yet director John McTiernan refused to compromise, insisting that the danger was worth the authenticity. The crew proceeded with extreme caution, but the result was cinematic spectacle, unlike anything audiences had seen before. Explosions so massive and intense that they still feel dangerously real, even decades later. The combination of practical effects, real pyrotechnics, and tight camera work made Die Hard's action sequences pulse with a raw, tangible energy. It's a perfect example of Hollywood walking the line between artistry and chaos, proving that sometimes the most unforgettable movie moments come from daring, real-world risk, and maybe a touch of reckless genius. Die Hard didn't just show explosions, it shook the city. Real danger made its thrills unforgettable. Shocking Secret 9. The Yippi Key line was almost cut. It's the line that made John McClane immortal. Yippi Key, Mother 4. But that unforgettable moment nearly didn't survive the editing room. Bruce Willis improvised the line on set, riffing off his own irreverent sense of humor. The crew erupted in laughter, but the studio executives weren't amused. They worried it was too crude, too over-the-top, and far too silly for a tense, life-or-death action sequence. Some even suggested cutting it entirely, fearing it might undermine the film's stakes. Director John McTiernan, however, recognized its brilliance. He argued that McClane's wisecracks were integral to the character, his humanity, his charm, and his defiance in the face of danger. McTiernan pushed back against studio concerns, insisting that the line stay. In the end, the compromise paid off. That single improvised quip became one of the most iconic catchphrases in cinema history, instantly recognizable even decades later. Without it, Die Hard might have been just another suspenseful action thriller. With it, McClane transcended the screen, becoming a legend, equal parts vulnerable, witty, and indestructible, and forever cementing Bruce Willis in Hollywood history. Yippi Key wasn't just a line, it was McClane's soul. Willis's improvisation turned a joke into legend. Shocking Secret 10. The FBI agents were a joke at someone's expense. Special Agents Johnson & Johnson, no relation, are far more than comic relief in Die Hard. They're sharp satire wrapped in absurdity. Screenwriter Jeb Stewart created the characters as a jab at bureaucratic arrogance, lampooning the overbearing federal presence that often complicates or derails police investigations. Their incompetence isn't merely humorous, it's biting social commentary. One of the Johnsons casually predicts 20–25% casualties tops while planning an assault, reducing human life to cold statistics. A stark contrast to McClane, who risks everything for real people. They embody the exact opposite of McClane's bravery and moral clarity, detached, careless, and oblivious to the consequences of their actions. Every poorly timed decision and self-important flourish underscores the absurdity of excessive bureaucracy in life-or-death situations, and the names themselves weren't accidental. Johnson & Johnson is a sly nod to the corporate giant, suggesting that even the FBI operates as a faceless, impersonal brand. By combining humor, critique, and clever wordplay, these characters enrich the film, adding layers of meaning while keeping audiences laughing at the expense of authority. Johnson & Johnson weren't just funny, they were a mirror of bureaucracy. McClane's humanity made their absurdity sting. Shocking Secret 11. John McClane's bloody feet were movie magic. One of the most brutal and memorable details in Die Hard is John McClane's shredded, bloody feet after he runs barefoot across broken glass. The image is so vivid that it's hard to believe it's cinematic illusion. But Bruce Willis wasn't actually risking his soles on razor-sharp shards. To create the effect, the special effects team designed custom rubber feet shoes that slipped over Willis's own feet, meticulously painted and textured to look raw, cut, and injured. For certain close-up shots, they even sprinkled safe, edible candy glass fragments around him, giving the illusion of jagged glass everywhere without endangering the actor. Even with these precautions, Willis endured hours of uncomfortable prosthetics, heavy makeup, and awkward foot positioning, all while performing stunts and reacting to the danger in real time. The agony we see on screen may have been staged for dramatic effect, but the physical toll on Willis was real. That dedication, combined with clever filmmaking and practical effects, made the sequence one of the most visceral and unforgettable moments in action cinema, turning McClane's pain into an iconic symbol of human vulnerability and resilience under extreme circumstances. McClane's feat weren't real, but the struggle was. Willis sold pain so convincingly, it cut deep. Shocking Secret 12. A script rewrite changed the ending forever. The original Die Hard script didn't end with Hans Gruber dangling from the Nakatomi Tower. In early drafts, the climax was far quieter and far less dramatic. The terrorists simply escaped by helicopter, leaving the final confrontation unresolved and tension deflated. Director John McTiernan, however, immediately recognized that it felt flat, predictable, and anticlimactic. He demanded a rewrite that would raise the stakes and deliver a payoff worthy of the story's build-up. The result was cinematic gold, Gruber plummeting to his death in one of the most iconic villain send-offs ever filmed. That single change transformed the finale from a pedestrian escape into a suspenseful, unforgettable conclusion, blending danger, timing, and character-driven drama. It wasn't just a better ending. It was a moment that solidified Die Hard as a masterclass in tension, pacing, and cinematic payoff. McTiernan's insistence on rewriting the climax at the last minute proved that sometimes the best ideas come under pressure, and that tearing up a script can be the very thing that turns a great movie into an immortal one, forever etched in the minds of audiences and the history of action filmmaking.
Combat Ranch. You know that game with the guns that shoot red paint? Everything's kind of stupid to you.
The ending wasn't just rewritten, it was elevated to legend. Gruber's fall turned suspense into cinema history. Shocking Secret 13. Willis was mocked for starring in an action film when Die Hard was announced. Bruce Willis was best known as the wisecracking romantic lead on the TV series Moonlighting. He wasn't built like Schwarzenegger, didn't brood like Stallone, and had zero credibility as an action star. Critics scoffed at the idea of him carrying a high-octane thriller, and movie posters downplayed his presence entirely, promoting the towering Nakatomi Plaza over the actor himself. Some newspapers even went so far as to call the project career suicide, convinced that Willis lacked the gravitas or toughness required for the role. Yet when audiences finally saw Die Hard, all doubts evaporated. Willis's unique combination of vulnerability, sarcasm, and sheer determination transformed John McClane into a new kind of action hero. Relatable, human, and imperfect, yet undeniably courageous. His every stumble, wisecrack, and daring move connected with viewers in a way that traditional muscle-bound heroes never had. Overnight, Willis went from sitcom actor to global superstar, redefining the action genre in the process. The critics who doubted him were silenced, and McClane's everyman hero became an enduring symbol of grit, humor, and resilience in cinematic history.
You smoke?
Yeah.
Willis wasn't just an actor, he became the everyman hero. McClane turned doubt into triumph overnight. Shocking Secret 14. Bonnie Bedilia's role was originally bigger. Bonnie Bedelia, who played Holly Gennaro McClane, was far more than a typical damsel in distress. In early drafts of the Die Hard script, Holly had significantly more screen time and agency. She was written as a sharp, commanding executive who actively resisted Hans Gruber and his men, rather than simply waiting for rescue. Her intelligence, decisiveness, and courage were intended to make her a full-fledged partner in the story's tension and drama. As the script evolved, much of Holly's independence was trimmed, shifting the spotlight almost entirely onto John McClane. Yet even with reduced screen time, Bedilias' performance left an indelible mark. Her quiet strength, calm resolve, and no-nonsense delivery brought Holly depth and authenticity, elevating her beyond the standard hostage archetype. She became the emotional anchor of the film, reminding audiences what McClane was truly fighting for, not just survival, but love and loyalty. Bedilias' portrayal ensured that Holly remained memorable, a character defined by intelligence and heart, whose presence added nuance and humanity to an action film that could have easily been all explosions and chaos. Holly wasn't just a hostage. She was McClane's anchor. Bedilias' strength gave the hero heart. Shocking Secret 15. Rickman's iconic death scene was a trick shot. Hans Gruber's death in Die Hard isn't just legendary, it's a technical and cinematic marvel. To pull it off, the stunt crew constructed a massive rig, allowing Alan Rickman to safely fall 40 feet onto a giant airbag. But the brilliance of the scene wasn't just in the mechanics, it was in the deception. To capture the raw terror in Rickman's eyes, the crew told him they would release him on the count of 3. In a classic behind-the-scenes twist, they let go on 1 instead. Rickman plummeted unprepared, his genuine shock and panic frozen in time. Yet the scene's terror was amplified even further in post-production. Editors slowed the footage, stretching out every moment of his fall to maximize suspense and tension, making Gruber's demise feel longer, more agonizing, and hauntingly real. That split-second betrayal created one of cinema's most unforgettable villain endings. Rickman's glare, equal parts shock, disbelief, and resignation, wasn't mere acting. It was pure survival instinct, captured and immortalized on film. The result is a perfect blend of stunt ingenuity, editing mastery, and an actor's instinctive reaction, cementing the scene as an iconic moment in action movie history.